Hello students, welcome to the English class. Today we are going to discuss the chapter Where There Is a Wheel, written by P. Sainath. Get your textbook and go to page number 119, chapter Where There Is a Wheel. P. Sainath is an Indian journalist, especially photojournalist, and he writes for the papers Telegraph, and he writes from Kolkata, and then Frontline. He writes more about the social problems and rural affairs. Third, poverty and aftermath of globalization in India, or what happened, or what are the effects and results of globalization that took place in India from 1991, right? So these are his famous, the topics he writes most about. Okay, these are the things about P. Sainath. Remember, we have discussed he is a writer or the journalist. Now, this journalist, P. Sainath, focuses on the social problems. Understood? Well, let's come to the title of our lesson. Well, it is not where there is a will, right? Where there is a wheel. So this title may remind you of something, one proverb. What is that? Of course, most of you have guessed correctly. Where there is a will, there is a way, right? So what is this proverb says? What does that proverb suggest? The proverb suggests that if you have will to do something, well, if you have a strong desire, and if you are ready to go out and achieve it, then of course surely you can make it out. You will find one or the another way to achieve your goal or achieve your dream, isn't it? Where there is a will, there is a way. If you really want to achieve something, definitely there is a way, definitely somehow you can manage to do it, right? That is what that proverb, where there is a will, there is a way, says. But this is a pun, where there is a wheel, not will. Now, which wheel they are talking about, or which wheel our writer has intended us to discuss? That is, he is talking about bicycles. Open your textbooks, and there is something about P. Sainath in page number 124. We can go through the glossary of terms. What does it? First word comes over there. That's a neo-literate. So newly. Okay, newly literate people. Literate, what is the meaning? One who can read and write. Aksharastaru in Kannada. Not educated. Educated and literate can mean different thing. Okay, so those who have newly learned to read and write. This is one of the idea over there. Then Gram Sevikas, phenomenon. What is phenomenon? An event that occurs. Then of course brainchild is given. What is brainchild? What is the meaning of that word? That's an idea, in the sense of idea or invention of one person, one person's idea. There's a one meaning over there. So that leads us to these three things we are going to observe today. One, proverb. Where there is a will, there is a way is a proverb, right? From that, this particular title has taken. It's a memorable saying, or it's a fact. So many people have experienced this fact, and this has been written in the words. Okay. So, second one is idiom. What is an idiom? Idiom is a special use of language. Of course, pun is also one of the special use of language, but idiom is a special use of language. Idiom is a phrase, need not be, group of words which means differently from the meaning of individual words. Anta helidre, literary meaning and the meaning which expressed meaning can be different. It may not be the literary meaning. Shabdartha may be different. That is an idiom. Why we have to going to study this? Because there are so many idioms which have been used in this lesson, as well as from the examination point of view, we will have question on idioms and phrases, and of course that also may come from this chapter. So focus on that, idioms. Then there is a word movement. We are going to study one particular movement that has changed the life of rural women of one of the backward districts of India. So where there is a wheel, focus on one of the movement that changed the social life of rural women, especially of one particular district, Pudukottai. Understood? So before jumping into the lesson, before jumping into the text, what are the things we need to know? Well, India, a traditional country, right? Country with a lots of tradition, and of course so many people are still considered to be too traditional, and this tradition, well, that's a good, and we follow that. But sometimes what happens is that some of these traditions cannot be accepted in current society. Okay, it is not needed anymore, and sometimes in many cases, in the name of tradition, what we are going to do is that we are restricting the freedom of some people, whether it's a children, whether it's belongs to a particular community, class, or women. Understood? So we are restricting people in the name of tradition sometimes. This is also one of the problems still we are facing in India. Got it? Yes. Now there is something more about this. This particular chapter where there is a wheel discusses about what happened from 1991 to 1993 and all. 1992, 1993, of course in later years. What happened? Yes. Long ago, right? So why we have to observe this particular timeline? We have to observe this timeline when we are dealing with this particular chapter, because this is a social this deals with the social problem, women empowerment, rural society, and all those kind of things, including poverty. So when we are dealing with that, we cannot imagine and compare those people to today's current 2020, 21st modern day, our society, especially not the society you can see here and around Puttur or Mangalore and all. Well, we are talking about one of the districts, one of the backward districts of that time. In today's, we see women in each and every field, right? They are achieving in each and every field. Yes, of course. At the same time, we can see that still some of them are bound to their tradition, or some families are bound to the tradition. They have not allowed to enjoy freedom fully in the full extent, just like a man or a boy. So is it still there? And it's not. Is it not? So we have to observe all these kind of things. Understood? Light of knowledge movement or Arivali Iyakkam, we are going to deal with that. Understood? Yes. Oh, please go to the textbook, open page number 119, and let's begin the class. Chapter 13, Where There Is a Wheel, by P. Sainath. First paragraph. Pudukottai, Tamil Nadu, in bracket. Cycling as a social movement sounds far-fetched, perhaps, but not all that far. Not to tens of thousands of neo-literate rural women in Pudukottai district. People find ways, sometimes curious ones, of hitting out at their backwardness, of expressing defiance, of hammering at the fetters that hold them. The idea that cycling can become a social movement seems to be far-fetched and unlikely or highly impossible. Though it sounds like highly impossible, not so impossible, especially in the case of tens of thousands of rural women from rural area, who are neo-literate newly learned to read and write from Pudukottai district. He further says that people find ways of hitting out at their backwardness. When we face problems, when we want to overcome from that problem, people sometimes find different unusual ways of expressing their defiance. Defiance means opposition or rebelliousness, rebelling against the system which controls them, or hammering at the fetters that hold them. Hammering, hit out or break. Fetters and the shackle over here for the ankles or the feet, or something that constrains freedom to act. Something which doesn't allow us to be free. So over here, rural women has expressed their defiance or opposed rebelliousness, freedom from traditional ideas which stopped them from expressing what they wanted to do, how they wanted to live. Observe the word hitting out means make a vicious attack, especially verbal attack. In this, one of India's poorest districts, cycling seems to be chosen medium for rural women. During the past 18 months, over 1 lakh or 100,000 rural women, most of them neo-literates, have taken to bicycling as a symbol of independence, freedom and mobility. If we exclude girls below 10 years of age, it would mean that over 1/4 of all rural women here have learned cycling, and over 70,000 of these women have taken part in public exhibition contests to proudly display their new skills. And still, the training camps and desire to learn continue. Pudukottai is one of the India's poorest districts. Rural women over here chosen cycling as a medium. For what? Medium of expressing their freedom. During the past 18 months, more than 1 lakh women taken to bicycling. Underline the word taken to, accepted. 1 lakh women, and most of these women, or most of the women in this 1 lakh are neo-literates, those who are newly learned to read and write. In the part of rural Pudukottai, young women zip along the roads on their bicycle. Jamila Bibi, who has taken to cycling, told me, "It's my right, we can go anywhere. Now I don't have to wait for a bus. I know people made dirty remarks when I started cycling, but I paid no attention." Heart of rural Pudukottai means center. Young women zip along the roads, zip along, underline that phrase, zip along, go together. And one of the example is taken over here, that of Jamila Bibi, and she has taken to cycling, underline the word taken to, started to. Jamila Bibi told the writer that cycling was her right. They can go anywhere without waiting for bus. So it cuts down on the time they spent on waiting for bus, and more than that, they need not depend on somebody else. They can go as they wish, when they wish, where they wish. The problem they have faced: people made dirty remarks when I started cycling. How did the society accept? How did the people react when women started going around with the bicycle? Did they accept them easily, or is it very easy to them? Well, it is not. And they started to discourage these women. They made comments, and with the comments they try to discourage the women from going on cycling. This is one thing they have faced, and most of the people who start something new face this. But who will win? Only those who paid no attention to these remarks, because these remarks will not let anybody to reach anywhere. Understood? Fatima is a secondary school teacher, so addicted to cycling that she hires a bicycle for half an hour each evening. She said, There is freedom in cycling. We are not dependent on anyone now. I can never give up this. Jamila, Fatima and their friend Avakani, all in their early 20s, have trained scores of other young women from their community in the art of cycling. Who is Fatima? She is a secondary school teacher and she is addicted to cycling. Underline the words addicted to. And every day for half an hour she rents out a bicycle only to enjoy the bicycle. Reason she gives that when she rides the bicycle she feels that freedom and she feels as if she is not dependent on anybody, and that's why she says that she cannot give up. Underline give up. And now why she rents out a bicycle? She rents out because she cannot afford to buy a bicycle. In those days that 1200 rupees were considered to be very high price, costly for those people. People, those who have learned bicycling, teach cycling to others. Understood? So moving on, cycling has swept across this district. Women agricultural workers, quarry laborers, village health nurses are among its fans. Joining the rush are Balwadi and Anganwadi workers, gem cutters and school teachers, and Gram Sevikas, midday meal workers, and are not far behind. The vast majority are those who have just become literate. The district's vigorous literacy drive, led by Arivoli Ekkam, has been quick to tap this energy. Every one of the neo-literates, neo-cyclist women I spoke to saw a direct link between cycling and her personal independence. Underline the words phrase swept across in the first line. Okay. Cycling has swept across this district. Swept across means you can see everywhere. And who are those women who are taken up to bicycling? Agricultural workers, those who work in the farms, quarry, those who are working in the quarry, nurses, Balwadi and Anganwadi workers, gem cutters, school teachers, Gram Sevikas, midday meal workers. Who else? So almost each and every women have taken to cycling because they have realized that cycling gives them a lot of freedom, a lot of choice, and they can be free. They can move anywhere as they need. Now there is something more about it. How did they get into bicycling? Arivoli Ekkam has observed something and they have given enough fuel to this particular idea of bicycling and the idea of freedom. Understood? What is Arivoli Ekkam? Light of Knowledge Movements. It's a district's literacy drive or their movement to make the people literate. Understood? Every one of the neo-literate, neo-cyclist women spoke direct link between cycling and personal independence. This is one of the important thing. What does this women think? Especially those who are neo-cyclists. Neo-cyclist means the one who learned cycling recently. They identifies that cycling gives them personal independence. They need not be dependent upon the male members of the society, so whether it may be their husbands, sons, children, or fathers. They need not be dependent upon them. This is one of the idea they have observed over here. Then comes N. Kannammal. Who is N. Kannammal? That she is Arivoli Central Coordinator and one of the pioneers of the cycling movement. Pioneers, one who started, were there in the beginning. And N. Kannammal identifies something and she says that the main thing was confidence it gave women. More importantly, it reduced their dependence on men. The idea that they need not wait for bus, they need not wait for male members so that they can go somewhere else. This idea gave them self-confidence, and this self-confidence, of course, expressed in many different ways. Let's go to page number 121. Now we often see a woman doing a 4-kilometer stretch on her bicycle to collect water, sometimes with her children, carting provisions, going to place and visiting places. So Kandamal further says that nowadays it's very common for them, or then at that time, even they go 4 kilometers. Women had to put up with the vicious attacks on their character when this began. Kandamal continues. Well, society or the people or traditional people, whether it's a man or elderly women, anybody for that matter, they made comments, filthy remarks, vulgar remarks. Why? Because how can a woman, a traditional, well grown woman, can ride a bicycle just like a man? This may be their thought, and they have expressed they wanted to control it, or they cannot accept women are being independent. Those people wanted to discourage women, and they made filthy remarks, and women has to face this. First of all, they are learning something new, and when they were learning something new, there is an attack on them. They have to face this attack. It's not a physical attack, this is more of psychological attack for them in that matter. Holy movement has given them support, so women took to it means took to it, accepted. Women continued to go on bicycling, and this helped them to become self confident as well as self dependent. Understood? Next part, Kandamal says she was a science graduate and she never mustered the courage to ride bicycle earlier until this Arivoli Yakam has given supported them. So even though she was a graduate degree holder in science, she did not have courage. It's not because of that courage to ride bicycle, but also we can say that courage to face the society, this vicious attacks on their character, filthy remarks, comments. She did not, most of us do not want to face this kind of situation. So what people will do, they will not attempt. Over here, the same thing might have happened in the case of not one, but many. Visiting an Arivoli cycling training camp, our speaker says that what he has observed in one of the camps where women are being trained to ride bicycle. And what is the name given to the camp? Cycling training camp, and led by Arivoli Yaka movement. Mentions one particular village, that's Kulakurunji village, and in this Kulakurunji village, prospective learners, those who wanted to learn, had turned out in their Sunday best. Underline the words Sunday best. In the previous paragraph, put up with, underline that, Sunday best. Now Sunday best referred to the best clothing or attire. So usually when do we wear the best clothes? Of course, going to church over here, as a matter of reference, and second, when we are going to attend some functions, when we are happy, when we are being with the friends, especially something like this. Over here, they have come to learn cycling and they are wearing their best dress. It shows that their enthusiasm to learn bicycling, of course. So you can't help being struck by their sheer passion of pro cycling movement. Being struck by, underline that. Being struck by means or finding out something very new, something very shocking. Understood? Cycling offered a way out of enforced routines around male imposed barriers. The new cyclists even sing song produced by Arivoli to encourage bicycling. One of those has lines like, "Oh sister, come learn cycling, move with the wheel of time." Okay, well, why they have this passion that they had to know, why they believe that they should know cycling? Well, first of all, it is a way out of enforced routine, way out of, they can escape, underline that, way out of enforced routine. Enforced means their routine were not there by choice,
they had to do it because they are instructed to do this. Who instructed? Well, there is one more thing, male imposed barriers. Their life was controlled, what they do, how they do, when they do, all this kind of stuff were imposed on them. ಅದನ್ನು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಮೇಲ್ ಇಂಪೋಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ. And of course there are songs which are again Arivali campaign, they were singing all the time, that is to encourage their learners, oh sister come learn cycling, move the wheel of time. This is one part and we can continue in the next class. Thank you.